with this podcast. This is our first ever one, and we hope to do many more in the future. Apex Race Hub has a lot of stuff coming up. It's only 14 days until the D1 Daytona race, so there is a lot to cover because there has been a lot of stuff happening over this offseason. I'm your host, Broken, former owner and D1 team owner and D2 driver. I'm going to be your host for this show. You're going to see two other commentators tonight. That's going to be Ziak, and it's also going to be Nintendo. They're going to be joining me and answering questions throughout the show. Later in the show, you're also going to see two driver hosts. That's going to be JJ, and we're also going to have Brody on the show as well, talking about their teams respectively. We also have Pip in the background. He's controlling all of our streaming for this initiative. So I appreciate all your support, and we're going to see how far we go. I also want to thank Phil and Kim and everybody who has started Apex Racing Alliance and has got us here to this point. So there's a lot of stuff happening. We have, first of all, our first ever, you can call pre-season live-streamed race is going to be tonight. It's going to be the Apex Derby, hosted by Blake. That's going to be at Five Flags Speedway, and the late models that he cooped up in the last 2 weeks. I've tested them. They're amazing. So if you want to come out, I believe I don't... Phil can correct me in the comments, but I believe you just need to show up. I think it's just a fun race event. But we're going to be excited to see that tonight. It's going to really show, who has the best short track ability. Hopefully we can end this so I can get in there because I was really strong in practice last night as well. But other than that, there is a lot of stuff coming up, and hopefully this is going to give you all the information you need to know what you're going to start thinking about once Apex Racing Alliance gets out there. So at this time, we're going to do a quick transition over to our first segment. So at this time, we'll be back in about 10 seconds. All right, well, Apex Racing Alliance has a lot of stuff coming up. We're going to get straight into the first segment of our first ever show here tonight. The first segment, we want to solely focus on how each of us think the season's going to go. I'm going to talk first, and then I'm going to let Ziak and Nintendo talk about how they think the season will go as a whole. We're going to try not to bleed into other topics because we also want to have our own topics for the schedule, races, cars, teams, and special events. So this is just going to be an overview of how we think the season's going to go. We're going to just talk about what we're excited for. So I'll start. I'm really excited for Apex Racing Alliance for a lot of reasons. I think, first of all, the drivers are very, spread out in skill level. We're going to see a lot of different skills at the road courses, and we're going to see a lot of different skills at the short tracks. Everybody, I think, has their own talent here when it comes to road racing, and it's going to really play out because you see in the Xfinity Series in real life, you have Shane Van Gisbergen, who isn't the best at the ovals, but when he goes to road courses, he's almost winning every single time, and because of that, he's in the playoffs. So, really, all you need to be is good at one type of track, and you can be, up there for winning the championship for either D1 or D2 this season. On top of that, I think what I'm really looking forward to, which I'm going to say now because I don't think we're going to actually talk about it later in the segment, and that's the commentary and the streaming. There's been a lot of different posts in the graphic feed and the media chat for Apex, and there's just been a lot of amazing graphics made, a lot by Pip. There's also a lot of commentators I recognize. We got Smalls, we got Mailbox Media, just to name a few. Those people actually came over from Jackal. They also actually are Apex Racing Apex Racing Hub hosts, but they could not make it tonight. But I'm really excited to hear their voices because they are very talented people, and I think they're even the most talented in the road racing community. With that, I'm going to lead over to Ziak and Nintendo. Starting with Nintendo, how do you think the season is going to go, and what are you most excited for throughout this season?
I think when we come to the whole season overall, we see that each team has its like you said, basically each team has its own dedicated drivers for each track, right? I'll look at my team quickly. Like we can look at people like Forza, who's well rounded, who can pretty much dominate each track. But we also have like road course ringers. I'm trying to think of one. I can't get one on my head right now. But each team is so spread out with talent that I don't think we're gonna get a really dominant force overall of like how we see who's gonna win. Like the kind of like a Kyle Larson of 2021 kind of season kind of. I think one of the things I'm really most excited for is probably like you said the commentating. We can look at like how Roblox commenting has developed and how like we have so much people with experience and known love for the sport to be able to commentate and bring that passion to it.
Yeah, I absolutely agree, and that's a great thing to touch up on because I think we both agree on that the commentating and the designing work, I think is going to be probably one of the best we've seen out of row racing. So that's what I'm really excited for. On top of the racing, which we'll obviously talk about in another section coming up. On to you, Zach. How do you think the season's going to go, and what are you most excited for as well?
Well, I think the season's gonna go pretty good considering the spread of skill throughout the drivers, not just throughout the drivers, but throughout the teams. There's some teams that will be good at super speedways, some that will be just good at road courses, and there'll be some that just completely dominate, like a few races entirely. Um, I'm most excited about would be the schedule. It's a very diverse schedule, but that's a different topic. But so we'll have to talk about that later.
Yeah, for sure. And as many people know, Apex used to be RERN, which is my league, and the cars are very similar. They're obviously way more complex. You got spin physics, you got, I believe, blowovers, and you got more skill. I believe there's a lot more, strategy in these cars than there were when I was hosting this league. Uh, these cars are basically what we had, but on steroids. And just because of that, the driving is very similar, and that's I'll talk about this more later, but when you talked about not thinking of many road coursers, I think of Takeshi. In season 2, if you are not familiar with Takeshi, he won his first ever start. He just straight up said, "Hey, I want to race." So we did a quick tryout session, and this was in RER in season 2, and he passed. So I let him race, and he straight up won in his first ever race. And I purposely signed him on Thunderstruck this year because I think he will be the road course ringer of the team. And he's just one example of someone who only needs to be good in one specific area, and he can dominate the whole season with just those wins. Now, the only downside for him, which we will talk about in a minute, and that is the schedule. And the schedule only has a few road courses on it, so people like Takeshi, who are road course ringers, may find it a little bit more challenging to dominate because of the schedule and its diversity. Speaking of schedules, that's what our next topic is. However, we're going to have a 3-minute commercial break, so stay tuned. We're going to be right back from Apex Racing Hub. Next topic is going to be schedules, races, cars, teams, and special events. Stay with us.
Dark skies have spoken.
It is time for Susan to retire.
But where will you go?
Zeus! Sorry, Zeus! I need a charge on the... Oh! Thanks!
Sweetie, it's not rocket science. I'm heading out. Don't forget to take Peggy for a walk. Mwah!
Yo, Zeus! A little juice! That's it. I'm done with this place.
We'll see about that. Everything okay out there, baby?
Hey!
Little Peggy, a little walk, huh?
I figure you could use a little pick-me-up.
All electric?
All electric.
The BMW iX. Electricity in its ultimate form.
Electric Avenue. Then we take it higher.
BMW, the ultimate electric driving machine.
Nice ride.
Want to give it a spin?
Coffee's enough excitement for me.
Come on.
Very nice. Catherine?
What the?
All right!
Is that?
Eugene Levy? Eugene.
Where is he?
Where are you?
Be there in 2 seconds. Well, cock-a-doodle-doo. Send him.
Wait!
Watch the coffee.
All Shotgun.
Ooh, baby, baby. But baby, baby. Ooh, baby, baby. But baby, baby.
Nope.
Ooh, baby, baby. Baby, baby.
All right, we are back from commercial break here. Before we talk about our next topic, which is going to be schedule, races, cars, teams, and special events, we have Balake here, who is hosting the Apex Derby preseason race here tonight. He's going to talk more about it right now.
It's going to be an exciting race tonight. We have over 25 of the 50 drivers we had try out will be racing tonight. Some include RERN, aka your host, Broken. You have a bunch of people. You have like JJ, you have Brody, Zycon. Everyone that I know will be hosting or racing in this race. We have a bunch of very big moments that could happen, as this is the first race we'll have ever of the Apex Racing Alliance. So we are hoping for a very, very good race. It should be any hour when we get ready for it. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you again, Balake. And with that, we're going to go on a quick transition back to our host, so we'll see you in about 5 seconds. All right, back to the next section, which is going to be schedule, races, cars, teams, and special events. By far, this is going to be the biggest section we're talking about tonight. We're forming it all into one segment because there's so much to talk about. So get ready to get a lot of information blown your way. We're going to start off with the schedule, and I'm not sure if Pip was able to put them in the stream. However, we're just going to go ahead and start talking about it, and if he has it, he can pull it up. If not, you can go look for it yourself on the season schedule on the season scheduled channel, which is going to be in Apex. So if all of our hosts can go ahead and look at that, I'm going to start. So when we look at the Apex Pro Series, we start off at Daytona, which is quite obvious. Daytona is where almost all leagues start. Then you go to Vegas, which is a similar track, except it's an intermediate. It's going to be very light braking. So once again, that track is going to be a track that's just going to be all about strategy, I believe. And then you move on to Auto Club. That track, even though it's still technically an intermediate, it's a very weird shaped intermediate. It's kind of like a long Darlington. Just imagine Darlington's little stretch on the turn, but it's just like spread out over 3 times the length. That track's going to be weird because you're going to have a lot of people trying out the high line, the low line, and the middle line. That's something you're definitely going to have to look out for. Moving on to Iowa, that's going to be our first official short track. That's going to involve a lot of skill and a lot of patience. A lot of pit road entries are going to have to be made for that, and we're excited about Iowa. I mean, at least I am. I'm really excited for Iowa. And then you move on to that first road course race we were talking about earlier. There's not a lot on the schedule, so the road course runners really have to put on their A game for CODA, which is after Iowa. That's going to be on the 17th of August. That race is going to be really the last test we're going to have to see who's the best at each category, because after CODA, we've already done 1 short track race, 1 road course, 1 intermediate, and 1 super speedway. After CODA, we have Bristol on the 24th of August. That's going to be another short track, so it goes from short track, road course to short track. Then back to the intermediates with Charlotte, which is going to be, I'm assuming, the longest race of the year, which also co-aligns with NASCAR. Following that will be Throwback Week at Darlington, which Darlington's a very, very, very hard track, and we hope to see a lot of stuff happen there. And then you move on to Indy Oval, which is a staple in NASCAR. We'll see how it does there. And then Kansas and Rockingham, round out your chase, except Rockingham is your all-star race, so I believe we may have a Robux payout for that if I'm not mistaken. So that's going to be a very cool race, and that's also the final race before the chase. So it's going to be a very tense race for Robux and for getting your chase spot. Immediately when you get into the chase, we have Talladega, which is a toss-up. Anybody can win that, and anybody can basically put themselves in a top position to chase just by winning that first race, because it's all about luck at Talladega. Following that, you go from straight luck to straight skill, and that's Dover. That's going to be a great track to see. And then after that's Road America. For the road course ringers, they have another shot at the chase to get themselves in position to win that championship, and that's going to be at Road America. And then we go back to another short track at Martinsville. So the short track aces are definitely going to be happy with this chase schedule. There's 2 short tracks in that small 4-race span. And then we ended off with a good old intermediate at Homestead, Miami. So that's the Season 1 schedule. Before we move on to the Season 2 schedule, we're going to go to Ziak and Nintendo, and we're going to ask them what their favorite races are for this C1 schedule. Starting with you, Nintendo, what races are you looking forward to watch or race in the most?
For me, I think Daytona, probably Coda are 2 of the most important, or even Dega in the, what's it called, the playoffs, right? We're looking at those 3 tracks because each, as we know, each team, we'll talk about later on, I guess, each team has a part-time driver, right? And then, like, tracks like Daytona or Dega, which are mainly known as super speedways, you can apply those part-time drivers to basically work for you as pushers or people that you draft off of, right? Which basically changes of how do these team owners plan to apply these tracks and attack them, right? But we can also look at tracks like Vegas or Auto Club, more of those intermediate tracks where those part-time drivers can be really those or at those tracks specifically like these blockers to block other drivers, right? And I think that when you look at each track, they all have their own unique ability, which will cause teams to basically face this this challenge of how will they apply to it, basically.
Yeah, for sure. And you made a really good point, and that was applying part-time drivers to super speedway races to not only give yourself a bigger chance to win, but really to give someone else a chance in the spotlight. I know it's all skill, but if a part-timer wins the first ever race this year in the D1 Apex Pro Series, that's going to go crazy, and that's probably going to give a lot of teams the ability to put him on some more scheduled races in the D1. It is important to note D1 racers cannot race in D2, but from what I believe, D2 racers can part-time in D1 for certain teams. So that means D2 drivers can have some chances up in the front, and that leads me to a point. Think about some part-time drivers in NASCAR Cup Series that came up part-time and won the race. I have 2 examples. You got Brad Keselowski in 2008. It was a very controversial finish, but he was racing for the part-time Phoenix Racing, which before was a backmarker team. He pulled all the way to the win at Talladega, and that completely changed his career. Now he went to Penske. I believe he won a lot of races there, and now he's over at RFK still winning today. Another example, even though it's still not the best example because he's basically out of the whole entire sport, but Trevor Bayne in 2011, he was running for the part-time Wood Brothers Racing, and he ended up winning that Daytona 500, and that made it so he winning that race actually made him get a full-time ride that whole season, which turned out to be a full-time ride for the next 3 seasons for Wood Brothers. And you got to think, if he didn't win that race, he may not even be in that seat after that race. It was really just a few race part-time schedule for him, and it completely changed his career. On to you, Ziak. What races are you looking forward to?
So, as we all know, Talladega is all-time fan favorite in every league, real like NASCAR. But the track I'm most excited for would be the Indy Oval, not only because it's basically a super speedway, but you also have to think about strategy. It's not only that uh, if you go to Daytona or Talladega, those are super speedways. Those don't wear the tires that much. You can just go full throttle. But Indy Oval also gives you the chance to go at high speed, like some over 200 miles per hour, but you also have to brake in the corners. And it also wears out the tires, so a lot of strategy can come into the race in the Indy Oval race.
Yeah, for sure. I'm really excited for Indy Oval, just not just for the strategy, but for the legacy behind it. You know, the tracks that when you think about tracks that are just like historic for NASCAR and you would want to win in any series, you think of Darlington, Daytona, Talladega, you know, Charlotte, and then you think of, you know, Indy Oval for the Indianapolis race. And, you know, I'm really excited for that. Now, on to the D2 schedule. There's a lot of races that will coincide with the D1 schedule, but just to name the D2 schedule, it's a little bit shorter. You also start off at Daytona, Vegas, Auto Club, and Iowa. The first 4 races are the exact same as the D1 Apex Pro Series, except I believe they're all just a day before on the Friday evening. Following that, though, instead of going to Coda, you go to Mansfield, which is Balake's track. It's a short track, and short tracks and trucks really go together. Think about when the NASCAR goes to Indianapolis. The Truck Series actually go to the Indianapolis IRP, which is the short track version of Indianapolis, instead of the main race. So it definitely does have a realistic feel to it, and we're going to see a back-to-back short track at Iowa and Mansfield for the Truck Series. So again, short track aces are going to love this schedule no matter what. And you move on to Charlotte, which is a classic favorite. Everybody wants to win at Charlotte. And then once again, Darlington and Indy Oval will be the next two races, just coinciding with the D1 schedule. Now here is when the drop-off happens. Indy Oval is on September 19th, and then Talladega is on October 17th. So there is 2 days less than a month of full break for D2 drivers. So they're going to have time to recoup for the chase, because the second this long break ends, we go straight to the chase at Talladega. So they can recoup, learn from their D1 prospected teammates, learn from other people, get strategy calls from other people, and I would personally watch the streams for D1 and get to learn the strategy of these drivers going into the chase. And then we go into the chase. It starts off with Talladega and Dover, which is the same as D1. The only different track on the schedule for the chase, and this is actually the only different track on the schedule for the entire chase, and that's going to be, instead of Road America, Sebring, which is another road course. The only downside with the D2 schedule, in my opinion, is that if you're a road course ringer, you're not going to have a lot of opportunities to even display yourself. The only race in the D2 schedule that's a road course is Sebring, and that's already in the chase. So let's say you're a road course ringer and you're not that good at ovals. Well, you're already going to have to do your entire way into the chase just to get to that first road course race. And if you win that one but you're out of the chase, it doesn't even matter at that point. So road course ringers definitely are going to have to look for those part-time opportunities in D1 so they can race at tracks like Coda and Road America. So that's the Season 1 schedule. On to the next topic with this section. We have races. Sorry, we already talked about races. We have cars. So there's not a lot to talk about here, but D1 has, next-gen cars. You can see a lot behind us, a lot to the side as well. If he wants to pan over. And then D2 just has your standard trucks. We have Chevy, Toyota, and Ford for trucks as well. So, a very standard car set, but, still, it's going to be very, very, very cool to see all those out. Now, on to the final section that's going to be a really big part of this section, and that's teams. I believe me and Nintendo own a team. I'm not sure if Ziak owns a team. I may be wrong. However, I'm going to pull up, go to the ARA team section, and we're just going to go team by team. So I'm going to basically just go to DMs, and we're going to see if they sent me a message for their team experience. So we're starting off with the Outsider Motorsports. That's actually going to be Nintendo's team, so we're going to let him talk about it right after I'm done with this intro. But I'll say the intro he sent me. The Outsiders Motorsports is a premier Roblox NASCAR Cup team renowned for its dominance on the virtual track with an impressive record of over 500 wins and 27 championships. The team exemplifies excellence and competitive spirit. Founded by Krim, the Outsider Motorsports has grown to become a formidable force, constantly pushing the boundaries of performance and strategy. The team's success is built on foundation of meticulous preparation and techniques and a commitment to fostering a supportive and collaborative environment for its drivers. Whether it's Five Flags, which is happening tonight, Five Flags, which is a driver, I believe. Buck, a well-rounded driver. BC, another well-rounded driver. And DB, which is going to be their road course ringer this year. And I have experience with DB in other leagues. He is very good on road courses. We expect the best performance from our drivers. First question I have for you, Nintendo, was did you physically type this out? Because you did. It was very impressive if you did. Or just be honest, was it ChatGPT?
Let's just say some websites were in use, and a little bit of editing was also added. I cannot remember that information legally. I'm not allowed to say that, but
Okay.
let's just say that.
Yeah, so real quick, as I pull up the other teams, do you have anything else to say about the Outsider Motorsports?
I think, like you said, each driver for my team is very unique. We got hard workers like all my drivers, right? We got like Forza, who for some reason does 500 laps. Like per race. I don't know what he's doing over there. And I think like each driver has its own focus. Like Forza BC, who are focusing on more rounded players, right? And then we got Buck, who's always trying to improve himself. He has a lot of experience, I think, on the track and always wants to push himself. Like he always asking questions about how to improve. But then we also got a part-time racer, which I'm gonna try and amplify one day into a full-time, right? But he is basically a road course ringer, and that's where we come into terms of what we said before. When do we apply these part-time drivers, and when do each team owner knows what tracks and what races do they do it?
Yeah, and just for time-related purposes, I'm gonna say one more paragraph team that someone sent me. The rest we will display next week, and then I'll just say the names of the teams on the wall, which the wall of teams is literally conveniently right to the right of me, so I can just name them real quick. But we're also going to talk about Cobra Leone's team, which is WLMMV Motorsports. They are also a very popular team in road racing. Info WLMMV Motorsports is a team that not only focuses on road racing NASCAR, but they also try to expand to sim racing. They also have factions in games like F1 and NASCAR Managers. So Cobra has a lot of experience with finding specific people for specific roles. So we're going to be really excited to see how Cobra's team can do this year. Selfishly, I think Thunderstruck, my team, is going to be on top. But if I had to pick another team, I think WLMMV Motorsports definitely is going to be one that will be up there week by week. Cobra has shown a lot of dedication to his team. He makes schemes like every week, it seems, in the scheme channel. So he obviously has that motivation. Let's just see if his drivers can go on top. Other teams, Thunderstruck Motorsports, my team. We also have Kamushi Motorsports, Crazy Motorsport. We have Jax Motorsports, who he also does motorsport racing and iRacing. I race with Jax Motorsports all the time. And also, speaking of iRacing, Thunderstruck also does iRacing. So a lot of these teams also do iRacing. We also have a Joe Gibbs Racing team that's going to be here, which is just, it's not the real Joe Gibbs Racing team, but it's obviously, the fan-made one for this. We also have the Outsiders Motorsports team, who we talked about. We have TSK Racing, WLMMV Motorsports, who we talked about. And then on a D2, we have Blaze Motorsports. We have BGX Racing, Nitro Racing, who I also know a lot about, Roadhouse Racing, and then Zizo Motorsports, who Zizo Motorsports was just added because another team left. So we'll see how quickly they can pick up the pieces. And then we have Lefty Racing Valvoline Motorsports, Skyline Motorsports, and RFG Goalie Motorsports. A lot of teams. And, honestly, I'm really excited for the week after the first race, because after the first race or two, we can actually have a feeling on what teams are going to be on top, and we can actually talk more about teams on this show. For now, it's mainly just an intro for the teams. I'm also going to bring it over to you, Ziak, because we haven't talked to you about this topic yet. What teams do you think are going to be on top this year?
Well, sorry for that. Well, for D2, I'd say Zizu Motorsports will be on top since it's my team, though. It's a team that I own, although we haven't done anything yet. But looking at D1, sorry for that. Looking at D1, the teams I think would be the most like on top would be Thunderstruck and Kamushi Motorsports are my top picks. Their driver list is one of the best I've ever seen. All the drivers I've raced with, they're really good, and I'm excited to see what they do. For D2, I'd say BGX Racing seems to have a good lineup, and Nitro Racing seems to have a good lineup. So we'll have to see what each individual team does, because, as I said before, every team has a different skill set on how they approach races and how their drivers approach races.
Yeah, for sure. And I'm going to be excited to talk more about these teams once we get more info on them and once these races start going on. We're going to have a quick commercial break, but before we do that, I want to talk about the Daytona Air Show happening on the same day as the D1 race. Right now, there's just going to be one team. That team is going to be... that team's going to be the Soar Jet team. They're going to have a quick 25-minute display. So if you're interested in air shows and you also like that type of stuff, there's going to be a short little display as a little preseason D1 teaser. So get ready for that. We'll have more information on that later. I appreciate Soar Jet team for all of their hard work. On top of that, the VRBA, the Virtual Roblox Blue Angels, and the VRTB, the Virtual Roblox Thunderbirds, they will also be performing, but later in the season. So we'll be having more information on when they'll be performing soon. We have one more section to go, so stay tuned with us. Next two segments are going to be the guest segment, where we're bringing on drivers from certain teams, and after that, it's the Q&A session, where you guys get to ask us the questions you want to hear. So we'll have a quick commercial break, and we'll be right back. See you in a minute.
14 when we tried to be everything. Do you remember all of the things we promised to each other? I thought this was it. I'm done with looking. I found who I want, but you weren't the one. How can I trust my judgment when my heart's in the pavement, screaming, please, please love me, love me? How do I go on from here when all I want is you near? Baby, please, please love me, love me.
300 million years ago, there was no Africa, Asia, Americas, or Europe. Just one big supercontinent, Pangea. And today, there is still a force connecting those divided by distance, reversing millions of years of drifting. Making far feel close, bringing there to here. Turkish Airlines.
Barbie really wants this dream house. It's got stunning views and a slide.
Barbie's ready for fun.
So cool! And Barbie found out about this dream house with an alert from Rocket Homes.
She did?
Well, it's a super competitive market. Everyone wants to buy the dream house.
Better offer Betty.
I'll go 10 over asking.
Cash offer Carl.
Straight cash.
House flipper skipper.
Let's tear it to the studs.
You vultures! You're gonna start a bidding war!
This is less than ideal.
Oh no!
Don't worry, Barbie has a verified approval that shows her finances are backed by Rocket Mortgage. So Barbie wins!
But we need a house.
Oh, I found a fixer-upper castle on Rocket Homes.
It has good bones, but really bad neighbors.
I like his vibe. Get your dream house all in one place with Rocket Homes and Rocket Mortgage. For a better way to find and finance, Rocket can.
Thanks for helping.
No problem, it's good for my glutes.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Apex Race Hub. That was the last commercial break, so the rest of this show is just straight up listening. And we're going to end this right around 6:25, so you guys can, be able to join Apex Derby with some lenience. Also, because selfishly, I want to be able to race tonight, and I'm sure a lot of you guys also want to race tonight, too. It looks like Nintendo fell off his chair there. Hopefully, he's okay. I'm not going to question him, but hopefully, he is all right over there. But on to the final segment for tonight, except for the Q&A chat, and that's going to be the guest segment. We are joined by JJ, and we are also joined by Brody, which you can correct me if I'm wrong, but you guys are both drivers. So just give a quick introductory on who you're driving for and, what you're excited about, starting with Brody.
Hello, I'm Brody. I'm the driver of the number 18. I drive for Joe Gibbs Racing, and I'm the teammate of JJ, so...
Oh, wow. So both of you guys are on Joe Gibbs Racing. So this is going to be a lot of Joe Gibbs Racing talk. So very lucky team to have both of you on. I didn't even know that before we talked about this. But yeah, both Joe Gibbs teammates. JJ, you can go ahead and do a quick introductory for you too.
All right, thank you. My name is JJ. Some call me JJ the Jet Plane because of how fast I drive on the super speedways, and I drive the number 20 for Joe Gibbs Racing. And
So JJ, they call you JJ the Jet Plane. So I have a question for you. Do you think during the air show we're gonna have, do you think you're gonna be able to stay up with those jets as they fly by?
maybe I could. I just have to hope that.
Yeah, for sure. So we'll see a lot of rocket boosters, I'm sure, from you this season. Just make sure it gets past inspection because that would be deadly to your season. I want to get on to the actual questions for you guys because I know you guys have a lot of different skill sets on each of your sides. So, Brody, I'm going to start with you. What tracks on the D1 schedule are you looking at and you're just marking down saying, I'm winning this race?
the thing is about winning, about saying like, oh yeah, I'm gonna win this race, is like, for me as a whole, as a driver, right? It's like how I see everything is like I have always this optimistic, like, open mind that I'll say like give a like a realistic placing of mine. So like, let's use like we'll say like the Kansas, right? Kansas is probably gonna be like, for me, I would say, well, I could be just a mid pack field. It could be just, but who knows? Like, there's always that chance I could win. But like some tracks I feel more confident in, like Coda, Bristol, Vegas, and Auto Club, and stuff like that. And then super speedways are always a hit or miss. It depends on how much you work and stuff like that. So that's how I kind of see it a lot of times.
Yeah, for sure. And then on to you, JJ. What tracks are you marking on the schedule as winnable for you that you think you can go in there and just straight up dominate, or maybe not dominate, but just have a chance at winning the race?
From the past, what you call that? From the past tryout session, I would say Vegas for me. Because I showed a lot of speed there back in the tryouts. Also, a funniest part is that it's also near my birthday. Well, a day after. The day after Vegas is my birthday, so it would be a good gift for me to get that win
Yeah,
there.
that definitely would. It definitely does co-align that you have one of your favorite tracks on your birthday week. So, I won't say I hope you win because I have my own D1 team, but I hope you have a great result there. I'm gonna think about one more question to ask you guys. So, you guys are both Joe Gibbs teammates. You have two other drivers and a team owner. Both of you guys aren't team owners, correct?
We are not.
Yep.
Okay, so as a team, do you see it just being you two active and always on top of your game, or do you think this whole team is really going to come together and show off a performance? Because from what I've seen in the Apex channels and from all the talks, I haven't heard much about JGR this season so far, but it seems like we have a lot of JGR drivers this year that are going to be very dedicated on getting these wins. So how do you think your team's going to do this year? I'll let you start, JJ. Actually, you know what? For this segment, both of you guys can just talk. So one of you guys go ahead and start.
All right, I think I should start first because
Yeah, go ahead. You go
I'm
ahead.
gonna go with the optimism first. Usually, so I think our team, as looking at it right now, our drivers, right? 3 out of the 4 drivers I know very well. JJ when he was starting his road race career, I coached him actually. So for about now 4 years, I've coached him throughout. And then Lefty has been racing against me since the start. So he knows me a lot, right? He knows how I drive. He knows how I kind of see things, a lot of things. So teamwork is probably going to be really really good during the races. So like at super speedways, both of them will probably know like what I'm gonna probably do, what I'm trying to plan to do, what I'm gonna probably be my main focus on and stuff like that. And the thing is, I like to calculate things. I like to give myself like something to do well in the race. So that is like calculating fuel or tire wear, or kind of stuff like that. So I think we have a really good chance of that, bond of like knowing each other and stuff like that.
Yeah, and I'm gonna chime in right before JJ goes in. I was assuming at first that you were a different Brody, but you are the same Brody from BLR, correct?
Yes, I'm the one that.
Okay,
won
so you and
5
JJ
championships.
both had to endure the pain of me driving on the track for 2 seasons straight. So, the last few years, I apologize for how abysmal my racing talent was in BLR, but I am still the season 18 champion, so I will say that. But you and JJ, I haven't. Sorry, I haven't actually looked at. Huh? What'd you say?
1 in 5 because I won 5 BLR championships.
Hey, I mean, I wasn't there for all of it. You were there for a long time, but
I was there since season 9.
you know, yeah. Oh, okay, yeah, okay. There was a lot of seasons in BLR. 18 seasons? That's crazy.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's just crazy to me. It was a lot of fun though. Back in 2022, I was grinding on there, even though I was not that good. But yeah, so. You and JJ have a long pass. I'm not sure, like you said, the other people on your team you have a good pass with too. But I remember back in 2022, you and JJ were just racing in BLR every week. So you guys have that teammate experience to go in there, know how you guys race. I'm sure you guys have basically mastered at this point how each of you race and what your skill sets are. So I'm really excited to see your teamwork this year. So yeah, JGR teammates, JJ and Brody. Before we end this segment, I'm going to ask JJ the same question I asked Brody, and that's I believe I asked Brody what tracks he was thinking like winning. Is that that's what I said,
No,
right?
it was the one of like we were trying. So like how active our drivers were, how we think how we're gonna do and stuff like that. So basically, so like JJ in perspective, like what do you think how are you gonna be how is our gonna be our teamwork, how active our drivers gonna be, etc. etc. So
Yeah, so JJ, go ahead and explain how you think the season's going to go for your team and how teamwork's going to be a big part of your season.
Well, for me, basically, I'm basically Dale Jr. and then he's Dale Earnhardt Sr. Basically. I'm just gonna play the number 2 driver if I wanted to. I don't mind it at all. So I'm just gonna be like helping a lot, basically be the team player for this team, and see how far we can make it, basically.
Yeah, and so it's kind of like a thing one, thing two thing. Brody's thing one and your thing two. So I'm really excited to see how you guys do. Stay here because we're gonna have a quick Q&A segment where you guys are gonna get to answer some questions if they ask you those. We're not gonna do any more commercial breaks. We're just gonna go straight to these Q&As. So with that being said, everybody who is still here watching Apex Race Hub, first of all, thank you so much for joining us. Go ahead and answer your question. Put your questions in. The first 3 questions we'll be answering. So fill up the chat right now because the first 3 questions, you cannot duplicate one question per person. But the first 3 questions we're going to hit, and then we're going to call it a day, and we're going to go straight to the Apex Derby. While the questions are rolling in, I want to thank 2 people, and that's Pip. Pip's having a really hard night. He rushed home. He's streaming Apex Race Up right now. And right after this, we're going straight to the Apex Derby for the first ever preseason race. So there's still a lot to come tonight. So we're very excited to see all of you guys watching there and racing in there, hopefully, too. I also didn't get to talk a lot about him now. I'm hoping to have him on a guest segment in the future. But I want to thank Alpha for all the work he has put in. Alpha and Balake, really. If you're not sure who they are, Alpha and Balake are basically the both big developers of this league. Balake, he made all the D2 cars. I believe he made a lot of the D2 tracks. And then Alpha is just the mastermind behind a lot of these tracks. I got to see some sneak peeks of his Daytona model he's using for Apex. It looks incredible. He has a lot of talent. I know in the past he's had a lot of different struggles with, getting the PC working correctly. But for the stuff he has and the stuff he has available to him, he does a darn good job making these tracks, making all of this equipment for Apex, and I believe he's doing it out of a volunteer work. Even if not, it's still incredible. But if he's being a volunteer, that just adds on to that aspect of how much he enjoys building. So we got to thank Alpha for all the work he's put in, and Balake for the work he's put in. On to the questions here. We have... well, Zizo, I'll let you ask one more question because only 2 people have asked questions, but we actually answered that question earlier in the stream, so you can go back, but I'll let you ask one more questions and do with the first one. We have Artemis Designs, which I'm assuming is a designs page, so yeah. What are your thoughts on the other teams like the Outsider Motorsports? So, I mixed it up, but whoever owns Outsiders, Ziak or Nintendo, go ahead and answer that question on what your thoughts are on your team.
Well, I guess I'll start if Zia wants to go next. But when you look at every other team, I think JGO is definitely one of the more competitive teams, I think. Let me go look at the roster list. Do not. Okay. So we're looking at a lot of teams at JGO. A lot of teams are either full, missing their part-time driver, or they're missing a full-time driver or one of their part-time drivers also. And when we're looking at how strong is each team, I'm looking at probably JGO is one of my teams. We know that Jax Motorsports is one of the, I think, first teams to actually be full, but I don't think they'll be as competitive as people say they will be. I think they definitely have a chance in winning a few races for sure, but I think they'll be one like kind of like the Stuart Haas Racing of today's season, where they'll be a little bit competitive, but they probably won't win too much. We'll look at JGO, which is Brody's team, which is on the podcast, I guess, really. That's a very competitive team. I expect them to win a few races myself. I think Crown's team is a competitive team. I'm not really sure about that team myself. I think that's a team full of well-balanced, mostly short tracks and intermediate drivers. And we're looking at probably Thunder Motorsports as another strong team for the season.
Yeah, and we'll just go across here because I just realized I haven't talked about my team that much either. Real quick before we talk about my team, and then we'll go over to Nintendo as well and talk a little bit more about his team, even though him and Brody already did talk a lot about their teams in the other segments. I do want to say, I'm looking at the stream, and I only see 24 subs on Apex, so if you're not subbed, go ahead and sub because we're going to have a lot more amazing coverage. It's not just going to be Apex Race Hub. You're obviously going to have the streamed races. Also, this is also a great time to point out Apex Race Hub is hoping to have a quick side podcast show after D1 races on Saturday evenings. This actually is a rare stream. We're not going to have a lot of Saturday evening streams for Apex Race Hub. It's mainly going to be during the weekdays in the evening hours. We'll set a date that's better for us as we get there. But get ready. We don't even have a name yet, but we're getting ready to have a post-race podcast show. It's going to be even shorter than this, maybe about 20 minutes, just recapping the race. But make sure to tune in for those podcast shows if we do host them, because those are going to be a lot of fun too. We may even bring on some drivers for some drama. Just a little bit of drama always does not hurt, in my opinion at least. Yeah, so I'll answer that question, and we'll move on to the next two questions before this derby gets underway. I've actually done a good job, I'd say, of not just over the top talking about Thunderstruck this segment. But Thunderstruck, I think, is going to have a really good season. I talked earlier about Takeshi. He's a road course ringer. He has experience with these cars in RERN. I think that he will be on top this season on the road courses. I also think for activity-wise, Rat is going to be up there. Rat's like one of the most popular people in Apex when it comes to talking. We're going to see a lot of him. And then you bring the experience level to that, and that's Waternet. Waternet is very experienced in road racing. He's raced in Jackal for ages now. He's going to bring that experience level to Thunderstruck that I think is really going to put the team out there. And then finally, the final driver is Wire. And if you've seen Wire in league races, you will know he is fast. And I think, in my opinion, Wire is going to be our main driver if he stays active. I think he's going all the way to the championship. So that's my take. And if you want to scroll back in the others, and earlier in the show, we had Brody and Nintendo talk about their teams. Buck, I'll answer that one real quick. I believe everything's going to be streamed, except for maybe fun races, yes. Okay, for the final two questions, we're going with Rares and Zizo Gamers. Who do you fear the most in D2? I think I need to answer this one because I'm a D2 driver. Looking at the schedule, you know what? That gives me something to pull up. So I'm going to go to the team's channel. I'm just going to look at the names, and I'm going to say, you know what? I think they are going to be a contender. So I gotta go to Apex here to look at this one. Okay.
Bro, I want to see this.
All right, so I'm just looking at the people online. There's 8 people online. Okay, I see one. Me personally, Fuzzy. Fuzzy is gonna be somebody who I do not want to be around personally. Fuzzy, from what I know, is extremely dirty, and I cannot be talking because I'm also dirty. But dirty plus dirty equals absolute chaos. I would stay away from Fuzzy, but who knows? Maybe he'll end up being a really good driver, and he's just waiting to shine. Looking at everybody else, honestly, these fields are stacked. I don't see anybody else, at least online, that I could say as, oh, I'm scared to race with them, because a lot of them are very good racers. On to the final question, and then we're going straight to the Apex Derby. Get ready for that. It's going to be crazy. Just got to keep promoting that because I'm excited for tonight. The final question, if you have any more questions, feel free to DM me. I will feel free to answer them in the next show. But it comes from Zizo Gamers. Who do you think will be the best team in D1 and D2? This is a question only for the guest drivers of JJ and Brody.
Okay.
I'm going to put a plot twist on this. You cannot say Joe Gibbs for D1. But JJ, go ahead and start it off. What D1 and D2 think team, other than Joe Gibbs, do you think you're going to be on top?
I need to think. Well, there's WLMNV, I think, if I'm correct. And then there's, what else? There is also, what you call that? Outsiders. That's another one that I'm looking out for because they have an all-rounder and also a road course ringer, which I'm not really good at. Well, I could say I'm good at road courses, but not as fast as the road course ringer. That's for my case. We'll go on to Brody.
It's
what about
I'm thinking. So
sorry, what about D2 for you, JJ?
Hold on, I need to also open up that one also.
Where is the
You're good, man.
Hold on, where in the hell is this, bro? Where's this driver's list, man?
Hold on. Well, I'm I would also have to
You can only just say the
say,
obvious answers, and that's Thunderstruck Motorsports and BGX. But I'll let you look at it.
Bro.
oh, there
What
it
a
is.
plug.
There it is. Well, there's also Fuzzy. Well, there's Fuzzy's team, as you said, and there's also probably. Wait, what's his name? Hold on, I'm trying to remember. It's the He Who Shall Not Be.
Okay. All right, got
All
it.
right, so real quick, because we actually have 3 minutes until qualifying, we're gonna
shit.
go over to Brody real quick. Brody,
Okay.
who do you think is going on?
All right, I'm looking at it right now. I finally found it. Oh my gosh, dude, we got Senti up in here. We got. Oh shoot. Okay, we got some stacked people. Fearless. Is that Lungs? That is Lungs. Oh dear lord.
Yeah, that's
All right,
Lungs.
so TSK, I know a little bit. I know a little bit about. I know Fearless. I know Lungs. They're pretty good. Cobra, I raced. That was really good. Kitties are squishy. Yeah, I know. Honestly, it's hard. It's gonna be a tie between like a WLM, and I'm gonna go with Thunderstruck. Yeah.
Thunderstruck, let's go. We got a Thunderstruck mention.
So,
all right,
so,
guys.
And then for D2, okay, I have to get out the bias because like me and Charles has some beef. This guy, oh my god. All right, but that's out of the window. There's no bias. And oh dear lord, okay. There's nothing I can't really judge on this one. There's like 3 drivers I despise right now. Not like that. They're all different teams. I think the only answer I can really go with is BGX, which is
all right. There we go. We got back to back. All right, guys. Well, thank you for joining us on Apex Race Up. This is gonna be the conclusion of the first episode. Literally right now, we are starting qualifying for the Derby race. No bias, but if you could support me, I'm gonna be up there. Hopefully, I'm not saying anything, but we'll see. This is actually a great episode. I'm really excited to have more of these. We're going to make a lot of memories along the way. I want to thank Ziak. I want to thank Nintendo for joining us, JJ and Brody. And, of course, we got Pit Behind the Streamer here tonight. Thank you for joining us on Apex Race Hub. Go watch that derby, and we will see you guys again next week for